Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /EntitledPeople, where people truly believe it's all about them and who cares about others. And in today's episode, Karens are running wild in hotels. Hotel staff are sharing their stories of the wildest encounters ever. People refusing to pay, Karens coming up with elaborate plans to get free vacations, the most irresponsible parents ever. So yeah, sit back, relax, and get ready to shake your heads, guys. And as always, this voice is only on the Dark Fluff YouTube channel, nowhere else. So this happened a long time ago. I was working as a night manager at a large hotel, and we had 4 overnight staff, consisting of myself, a cleaner, the night auditor, and a security guard. The guard's duty is to continuously walk the 12 floors for noise incidents. Our hotel was very close to a plaza that's filled with bars, including a very sketchy country bar known for overserving and not checking IDs. I also want to note that this is Canada, where legal drinking age is 19 for reference. The night this happened, we see 3 to 4 ladies in their late 40s and a younger girl who barely looked legal leave shortly after 11. They were dressed for the country bar for sure. Now, I thought it was a little weird to go clubbing with your mom and her friends, but whatever, you do you. Just before 1 a.m., the young girl and one of the older ladies returns. It's pretty obvious that the younger girl is really drunk, but they're being quiet, so I don't hassle them on their way to the elevators. 20 minutes later, the older lady's heading back out to party with her friends. Another 20-ish minutes, and we get a call from the security guard that there's a woman passed out on the floor in the hallway, and could I go up to back him up? So I head up to the floor in question, and sure enough, slumped against the room door is the young lady from earlier. She's unresponsive to our verbal commands, and then she starts throwing up on herself. Of course, we call an ambulance. While waiting for the ambulance, the mom and her friends return to their rooms. We inform the mother that we called an ambulance for her unconscious, unresponsive daughter who's throwing up on herself, and that's when she starts screaming at us. She's screaming, "How dare you call an ambulance? That it'll look bad on her as a parent, and what are they gonna think? That her husband is a first responder and he'll find out and she's going to sue us." Now, at this point, the paramedics arrive. They make sure the young woman can breathe and they load her onto a stretcher to take her to the hospital. And one of them does in fact know the mother, and that's when we find out the daughter's only 16 years old. He looked at her and he said she'd better call her husband to let him know what's going on. She goes off with the ambulance crew, crying, screaming that she's gonna sue us for ruining her life. And trust me, this post doesn't do the night any justice, and a lot of dialogue and screaming was left out. But that was by far the weirdest, most stressful night of my several years of working in a hotel, and the only time I've ever had to deal with a Karen to that extent. You know, after reading so many stories, like the things that some people do never ceases to amaze me. And like in a situation like that, she managed to make it all about her. How dare you call an ambulance? How's that gonna reflect on me as a parent? Like, maybe don't take your underage kid drinking, Karen. Like, that's your first thought. But yeah, with the way she's acting about hubby finding out and her life possibly being ruined, you can't help but to think it probably did not end well. And this person comments, "At this point, a brick is a more capable parent." So when this happened, it's a late Friday night, and it's around midnight when 2 guys walk into my lobby asking how much is a room for the night. They explain that they've come from the bar and their ride has failed to show, so they're stuck here for the night. One guy's completely sober and the other's drunk, but not incoherent. We'll call the sober one Sam and the drunk one Dale. As I'm looking up the rates and availability for the night, Dale's going on and on about finding Jimmy. "Where's Jimmy? Have you heard from Jimmy? I texted Jimmy a bunch of times. Maybe we should call Jimmy. Jimmy. This is clearly annoying Sam. About the same time I quote them a price, Sam tells Dale to go outside and call Jimmy to see if he can figure out where he is. So Dale steps outside the lobby, dialing up their friend on his phone. Sam forks over his license and credit card, and he says, "Can we do this as quickly as possible?" I give him the normal canned response saying, "I'll get you into your room as quickly as I can." He then says to me, "I don't want him to know which room I'm in. He's so annoying," gesturing towards Dale outside the door. I respond, "I see. I'm glad you said something because I would have given him keys too since you're checking in together." This is when Sam stresses again, No, I really don't want him to know which room I'm in. Can you please not tell him?" I respond, "If you tell me to not tell him, then I can't tell him. It's your room and you're paying for it, and that's between you and the hotel." During this exchange, I'm executing check-in as fast as I can. I super compress my spiel into a few seconds, stripping out all but the bare basics. No smoking, checkouts at 11, there's breakfast, yada yada yada. I give him his keys, and he grabs them from my hand and then sprints across the lobby to his room. A mere 30 seconds later, Dale comes back in. He notices that Sam's gone, and he asked me where he went. To which I respond, "Oh, is he not with you? I wouldn't know, sir." He then says, "Did he buy a room or not? Where is he?" To which I respond, "I'm sorry, sir. I'm afraid I wouldn't know where he is right now. Maybe try calling him." He then presses on and says, "Did he get a room?" To which I respond, "I'm sorry. Did you give him a damn room?" Clearly not buying my BS, he says, "I know he bought a room, so did you give Sam Samington, my friend, a room or not?" To which I respond, "I'm sorry, if I had, I wouldn't be able to divulge that information." This kicks off a literal 5 minutes of back and forth, of Dale repeatedly asking which room Sam's in, and me repeatedly refusing to even acknowledge that Sam's even a guest here. I don't know why he fled from this guy, but my job's to defend his privacy, so this dude won't be getting anything from me. During this exchange, a cab pulls up front, and in comes Jimmy, who smells terrible, and a cabbie who we'll call Cabby. Cabby comes to the desk and informs me, as impolitely as possible, that I need to contact Sam to let him know his damn ride is here. Now, this gives me an imperceptible moment of pause because I know that Sam was in fact waiting for a ride, but I also know that he's expressly forbidden release of his whereabouts to these characters, so I decide to continue my refusal to admit his presence in the hotel. And this is where things kick it up a notch. Cabby lays into her own demands that I release Sam's information, which I continue to refuse. Cabby's more into verbal abuse than Dale was, so she quickly devolves into cussing me out. She then informs me that Sam has absolutely no money and can't pay for his room anyways. She says to me, "That card he gave you is no good. He's a broke idiot that's scamming you." Of course, this is laughable because no guest checks in without us having already authorized their card. When this tactic fails to scare me, she demands to speak to a manager, to which I reply with my favorite showstopper, that I am the manager. Ultimately, she storms out, shouting profanity about me, the hotel, the neighborhood in general, with Jimmy and Dale in tow. She says, "Come on, let's go." They pull out slowly out of my driveway, and they make a very slow lap around the building before speeding off into the night. For a moment, I debate calling Sam to let him know that I just saw his ride, but I decide against it because he's already bought the room, and I'd rather not serve as an intermediary between a disreputable guest and his reprehensible friends. Now, I thought it would be over here, but it wasn't. 40 minutes later, Sam comes running back into the lobby with his button-up shirt still mostly off and his shoes in hand. The guy's still putting his clothes on as he asks me everyone's favorite question, immediately cluing me in on how the next 15 minutes is gonna go. He says to me, "Hey, so my ride is here. I changed my mind, and since I'm not staying here tonight, I'll need a full refund for my room." That's when I say to him, "I'm afraid I can't refund your room since you've already bought the room and occupied it." He then screams at me saying, "That's BS. I'm not even staying here tonight. Why should I have to pay full price for the room?" Again, I tell him, "You've occupied the room for about an hour now. You've consumed the product, and I'm afraid I won't be able to refund you." He then says, "Well, what about your cancellation fee? Can I just pay a cancellation fee and be refunded the rest? I'll be happy to just pay the cancellation fee." I just tell him, "Unfortunately, our cancellation fee is 1 night stay, and since you're only here for 1 night anyways, the cancellation fee is your room rate. I will not be refunding your room." During this conversation, the cab shows up again, and Cabby, seeing Sam arguing with me, comes storming into the lobby. Jimmy and Dale are presumably still in the car. Someone is, because they're laying on the horn non-stop. A split second before I get aggressive about putting a stop to that nonsense, Cabby does it for me by yelling, "Knock it off, you effing a-holes," out my lobby door. Sam quickly explains that he can't get a refund for his room, which triggers an almost verbatim repeat of the immediately preceding conversation, this time between me and Cabby, who's much more profane about it. Cabby then says to Sam, "You, get over there, I'll deal with this. You just shut up." So while Sam's retreated across the room to put his boots on, propping them up on my sofa, Cabby informs me that I'm being extremely rude, and that her friend is the manager at our brand hotel the next town over, and she's never heard of them not giving a refund before. I'm a few words into the each brand hotel is independently owned when she cuts me off and she screams in my face saying, "I don't give a crap what your stupid policy is. You listen to me. You're gonna be refunding Sam's room because he isn't staying here tonight. Do you understand me?" I let her know I'm afraid I won't be doing that. Mr. Samington has occupied the room and he will be charged for tonight. She then says, "Then I want to speak to your manager. Get them on the phone right now." To which I respond, "I've told you, I'm the manager." She then says to me, No, I'm not accepting that. I want to speak to your supervisor. You're gonna get me the district manager, the corporate manager, the owner. I don't give a crap, or I will have you fired." I tell her I'm afraid it's not up to them, and they'll tell you the same thing anyways. I won't be calling anyone at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm the manager here and the decision is final. She then says, "You said your cancellation policy is 1 night stay, right?" I respond, "That's correct." She then says, "Can I have it in writing?" I respond, "No, ma'am." She then says, "Why not?" This is when I tell her because you are not a guest here, and this really ticked her off. She just went wide-eyed and she sputters for a moment before shouting in my face, "What is your problem, you stupid bitch?" At this moment, Sam stomps over to the desk. He takes over the conversation now and he says to me, "I don't consent to pay for the room because I'm not staying here tonight. I don't give you permission to charge my card. You can't charge me for something I'm not even using." I just let him know, "Unfortunately, sir, when you signed the papers, you purchased the room and agreed to pay for it." He then says, "Can I see those papers then?" So I pull out his papers out of the bucket where they've been filed an hour earlier. And stepping back from the desk so I'm out of his reach, I unfold his registration card and I show him his signatures on the document exactly where he put it. Reaching out for the document, he demands I hand it over. He screams at me saying, "I am legally entitled to any document I've signed. Now give me the form. I promise I'm not gonna tear it up or anything." To which I say, "I will not be giving this to you." He then says, "Can I have a copy then?" A moment's next thought passes as I try to imagine what the police would say if they were called for my refusal to provide a copy of the form that this guest did indeed sign. So I tell him, yes sir, I'll make a copy for you right away. Now I have no idea if what he said was true. I don't think he's legally entitled to a copy after he's left the transaction, but I can't think of a good reason to not give him one. And in any case, refusing to give him a copy of an agreement, especially one that's in dispute, is dishonest. So I make him a copy. I point out on the copy document the various critical bits of information. I say to him, here's the room rate and the tax, here's your arrival and departure date, and here's your signature. After a moment, Cabby snatches the paper out of Sam's hand and reads it over. She looks at me sternly, and she informs me that she will be calling corporate tomorrow, and then stomps out to her car. Sam sighs, and he addresses me in a snarky tone as he turns to leave. He says to me, I hope you have another job, or you'd better start looking for one tonight, because you're not gonna be working here tomorrow. Good luck. I just say to him, have a good night, sir. They speed away again, and I wait a moment and catch my breath. I then quickly write myself a key to Sam's door and I run up to his room, and what I saw shocked me. Sure enough, the bed's turned out like it's been laid in, the toiletries are all opened, and he's obviously taken a shower, leaving water all over the floor. The toilet's got a massive number 2 in it and hasn't been flushed. The TV's still on, the mini fridge has been raided, and the drinks are gone. How this qualifies as not using the room evades me completely. The story does end here at least, with me adding the guest to our do not rent list and double checking the authorization on his card. I still work here to this day, and we did not refund his room. What a mess that was. And guys, gotta love how people threaten corporate when they don't get what they want, right? That said, like, you'd think that using the bed, taking a shower, leaving the TV going, emptying the mini fridge would make it pretty obvious that you use the room, right? Not to these folks. So here's one fresh off the presses. This person had their super shiny pretty status revoked today. It's not the most exciting, but I'm in the middle of what's turning into a 20-hour shift, so humor me. Anyways, one of our properties has had an issue with this excessively entitled and abusive super shiny guest for several years. If there's an event in town, he's always got a reservation at the hotel, and they always keep him awake. Eventually, he'll scream himself into a free comp night or barking up corporate's tree until they give him a free night. I will say that the guest is clever, because he always has issues that are way too vague to solve, or we just miss the issue. But it's always repetitive and serious enough that it requires compensation. And even I, technically a representative of the franchise's ownership group, can't really have a standoff with the super shinies. And the thing is, I know he's making stuff up, and he knows he's making stuff up, but his status protects him from being called out on it, until this night. So on this particular night, the hotel has no walk-in, no new reservation policy, as they're contractually sold out for the next 3 weeks, starting the next day. This extended to the OTAs and the corporate reservation site. Don't sell our hotel, we aren't taking reservations. Well, somehow, and we still haven't figured out how, this super shiny guest convinced someone from reservations into passing him high enough up the corporate ladder that they found some way of bypassing our room lock and they made him a reservation. I double-checked our count was 0 before I receive a call to backup security team with a noise issue. Right as we're finishing up with the contract, I get a radio call from the auditor saying, control to night manager, there's a problem. We had a reservation pop up and he's already on camera driving up the front lot. At this point, I'm double timing it to the lobby because I know I'm probably going to end up walking this person regardless of whose fault it is. And I'm not going to leave my auditor to upset someone in the middle of the night. I just get off the elevator and they're super shiny, already inside, and he's screaming at her, throwing his ID on the counter, telling her that he doesn't want to hear any BS, check me in right now, or I'll have you fired. Now, this tells me two things. He knew we weren't selling rooms, and the person from reservations who released it gave him a really poor excuse for why we weren't. Before I can get there, she tells him that she's sorry, but we're not selling rooms due to mechanical issues, and that reservations was in error giving him a room, for multiple nights no less, without consulting the property. Well, the guy's immediate response was to call her an ugly, lazy bitch who wants to get fired for not doing exactly what he says. At this point, I'm at the desk, and I'm shooing my very pregnant and now absolutely enraged auditor to the back before she throttled him where he stood. I told him that I don't appreciate him insulting my staff, that he was not, in fact, getting a room for the night. I also told him that I would happily walk him to another property in the area, to which he told me that I was gonna check him in, kiss his ass, and smile as I did so, or he would beat the disrespectful tone out of my voice. Security, who had just stayed out of eyeshot, heard the verbal threat, and they called the police. For posterity, I asked that Super Shiny repeat himself. Super Shiny, apparently just realizing the gravity of the situation he put himself in, decides to double down on the entitlement, saying he had a reservation, we clearly had the rooms, that he wasn't leaving until he was checked in no matter what was said. I just told him that we won't be checking him in, as he insulted my employee and threatened physical violence against a member of the management team. I told him he could leave or insist upon staying until the police arrived. So Super Shiny decides to call my bluff, and he stands there screaming how horribly he's been treated, how corporate would be hearing about how disrespectful I was, and how the lazy girl in the chair wouldn't assist him. And you'll notice that he changed his original insult too. Well, the police didn't take as long as he anticipated, and they strolled in. They took the incident report and showed the gentleman to his vehicle and told him he's not welcome back. Cue today. After way too many days of deliberation, corporate decided that insulting a pregnant night auditor and threatening to beat the yellow off a manager's teeth just barely qualifies for enough of a nuisance to warrant removing his Super Shiny status forever. All's well that ends well, folks. I think we can agree good riddance, guys, like a Super Shiny entitled guest who's that nasty and thinks they're that important and causes headaches more than anything. Like, those people have got to go. And if you thought that guest complaining was over the top, listen to this next post. Nothing compares to this one. Okay, so this is a good one, and I hope you enjoy. I'll always remember this wannabe scam artist. I was working corporate guest relations, and I received a very long email from a guest about their stay at our resort property in Mexico. This was a very nice, all-inclusive beachfront resort. She put a lot of effort into the email, which was basically a day-by-day diary of her 8-night stay, listing every possible complaint that anyone could come up with, along with a huge collection of pictures as evidence. And let me tell you, the thing was several pages long, and it looked something like this. On day number 1, the shuttle driver was very rude. I said hi to him, and he didn't respond to me. We also had to wait 30 minutes to check in. The view was horrible. We can't see the ocean. The sheets were also dirty. See picture attached. The AC is so loud I can't sleep. There's a crack in the sidewalk outside of our room, which is very inappropriate. See picture attached. My dinner was cold, and there wasn't any salt or pepper on the table, and the shower has no water pressure. Day 2, we had breakfast and they were out of pancakes. My daughter's favorite cereal wasn't available. There were also loud children playing in the pool all day, and there was a light out on the pathway. See picture attached. I called the front desk to ask for more towels, and no one answered. I think housekeeping took money out of my purse. Also, the chairs in the lobby are super uncomfortable. and one of the electrical plugs in my room doesn't work. Now, that was a short list, but imagine a list with 100 more things from her 8-night stay. Every department, from front desk, housekeeping, maintenance, everything she complained about. Now, some of the complaints did seem plausible, but really, who spends their entire vacation making a log of everything they think is wrong with the resort, especially a hotel where we get very little complaints about? So I contacted the front office manager to discuss this guest, assuming that the front desk system would have all the logs from this woman's complaints, as the hotel does log everything. But there was nothing there. In fact, the entire time she was at the hotel, she never voiced any complaints. She merely logged them in her little stupid complaint diary, and she went about her business. And the thing is, many of her issues were extremely petty. For example, the crack in the sidewalk that was unacceptable to her was about 3 inches long and was flat on both sides. It wasn't a tripping hazard, just a small crack. The light out in the path, even in the picture, I could still see that the area was still very well lit, because they have lights everywhere on the resort. Her room also didn't have an ocean view because, surprise, surprise, she booked a courtyard view, duh. Also, the picture of the dirty sheets she showed one tiny black speck in the corner, like if you tap the sheet with the tip of a pen or a fine marker. It also took 30 minutes to check in because she showed up 3 hours early and they had to get a room ready. The shower in her room was fine and the AC unit not loud at all. We looked into everything. We talked to all the department heads and she had the room she stayed in fully inspected. While the list did make it seem like she had a horrible stay, there really wasn't any substance behind her complaints. So since this all seemed a bit fishy to everyone, I called the guest and I spoke with her about her complaints. I told her that we had been in contact with the hotel and we couldn't find any record of her complaints, and I inquired who at the hotel she had spoken to while she was there, and she admitted she had spoken to nobody. I gave her my apologies and I suggested that next time she should express her complaints while on the property so they can be immediately addressed. For example, housekeeping would have been happy to change out the dirty sheets, etc., etc. Keep in mind that she was there for 8 nights at an all-inclusive resort with 7 different restaurants, 4 bars, multiple pools, all of that. She probably never left the hotel, but never said a word about all the problems she was having. She then argued that she couldn't voice her complaints as there was nobody that actually spoke English. And I want to note that 100% of the employees speak English. It's a requirement because this is an American hotel chain. So in the name of customer service, I tell her that we would like an opportunity to make this right. And I offered her 3 free nights to come back in the future, but no, that wasn't good enough. She states she wants a full refund, which is almost $7,000 and nothing less. I told her we would discuss it and I would get back to her. The next day, I informed her that the hotel would not offer a refund, but they were willing to add another night, so now 4 free nights. But no, unacceptable. She continues to demand a full refund. We went back and forth. She wanted my manager, who then told her the same thing. The guest hung up on my boss after things got a bit heated. A few days later, she calls again and she wants to know the status of her refund. Which I'm thinking, how do you give someone a status on something that's never going to happen? She then says if she doesn't get a refund, she's gonna contact corporate. I just roll my eyes and I explain to her again that I'm the corporate guest relations coordinator. I am corporate. I spent forever on the phone talking with this woman who just refused to accept the free nights, and she was hell-bent on getting her money back. She just kept going back to her stupid list, saying, well, what about this? What are you gonna do about this? What are you gonna do about that? But I wouldn't budge. It's a 4 free future nights or nothing, lady. And then the unimaginable happened. In all of my years of customer service, I have never, ever, ever had a scammer resort to telling the truth. When she finally realized she wasn't getting a refund, she cries to me saying, "I can't afford to pay for this. I don't have money. I don't know what to do. You have to help me." To which I was like, "You can't afford to pay? Like, how were you planning on paying for your stay when you made the reservation? It's not like we're charging you more than you agreed to, and we're still offering you free nights for your next visit." She then responded, completely broken and weeping, "I didn't think I would have to pay. I thought with all of my complaints I would get my money back. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Please, you have to help me. I literally can't pay for this. I've got kids. Please, you've got to do something to help me out. I need you to give me a refund. I don't know what I'm going to do if I can't get that money back. I can't pay for this." The whole time, I'm just thinking to myself, did this woman really just admit that she planned all of this? Thinking that she was just gonna complain her way into a $7,000 refund. And yes, she did say all of that. I just respond, "Ma'am, I am sorry, but there's nothing I can do." And guess who now has a panic attack over the phone? She starts screaming, "I've got to get that money back. You've got to do something. You have to help me out here. I don't know what else to do. I don't have the money. I can't pay for this. I'll literally have to file for bankruptcy." I just tell her, "Ma'am, you should have thought about all of that before you went on a vacation you couldn't afford." And yes, I shouldn't have said this, but I was so done with this woman. She had wasted enough of my time already, not to mention all the people at the hotel who looked into her entire list of BS. The woman just cried some more, and when that didn't work, she resorted to screaming at me, calling me names a sailor would blush over. I just hung up on her. Everything was noted, all of my calls were recorded, so I went ahead and attached that file. She did send some hate mail to our corporate offices, but due to the fact that I had a recording of her admitting she was trying to scam us, they ignored all of her letters. Oh, and her frequent guest membership was flagged as being banned from all properties. We didn't send her the free night certificates either. Guys, the post ends right there, but holy moly, what an elaborate plan that backfired so hard. Like, did she really go on an all-inclusive vacation expecting it to all be comped because she made a list of everything that was wrong with her stay? Like, I do understand needing a vacation sometimes, but at the cost of not being able to pay for anything else after, it's ridiculous, and I really hope she didn't have to file for bankruptcy like she said. Like, that would have been highly irresponsible of her, and if that's the final outcome, I feel bad for her kids if all they have to look up to is a woman who tries to cheat her way into things. Like, $7,000 comped is wacky, guys, for the lack of a better word. But that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/ entitled people. That's entitled people for you. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/ malicious compliance episode where Karens are going wild again and getting taught lessons. Go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.